Welcome back, everybody. Today we're here with some awesome news for The Walking Dead. We got two sneak peeks from the premiere, and then also we got the first early reviews from the premiere. So we're gonna break all that down in this video today. Before I do begin, though, if you are a fan of The Walking Dead, be sure to subscribe because we're getting so close to The Walking Dead, and we're gonna be having reviews and breakdowns and all that kind of stuff. So be sure to subscribe. But with that being said, let's get into it. All right. So the first sneak peek takes place inside a Negan cell, and it's between Negan and Gabriel. And Negan, they're just having a conversation, and I'll talk about what they said. But Gabriel walks in, and he says that he was kind of surprised that he took off work early. He thought he was enjoying the great outdoors, and I really love that line. Well, first of all, it kind of tells us what's going on with Negan. So it looks like now Negan is just not gonna be like completely free from the cell, but he's just gonna go out and work throughout the day and then come back at night and sleep in the cell. So that's definitely a great start. I was curious to see what Negan is gonna do to get out of the cell, if not if he wasn't already out of the cell in the beginning of the season. But since there's a time jump going into season 10, that definitely makes sense because he was in the cell for a very long time, and now he's out helping the community throughout the day, and then he's going back in the cell at night. But Negan is a little bit worried that everybody is kind of blaming him for all the problems, the problems with the whispers and stuff, because Gabriel said, like, why are you in your cell early? So obviously that means that he didn't complete his day of work or whatever, and he just went back to the cell. He'd rather be in there than outside because of how I guess people are treating him. Specifically, Negan said that people tend to mix up on who they hate. And then he says that he didn't really say the whispers, but he's implying the whispers. And he says, like, until this whole thing passes, I'm going to keep my head down so they don't categorize me with them. So obviously, a lot of the Alexandrians, maybe some of the ones that doesn't go out and deal with the whispers, some of the people who are just like at home and they're kind of scared and they just hear about the whispers, they probably assume that Negan could be involved in there because he is a villain. So I that makes sense. I do like that little thing. It kind of shows that Negan doesn't want to be in the same conversation as the whispers. And for me, I don't think Negan is gonna turn bad on the group. That trailer for season 10 definitely kind of hinted at it, with him and Aaron. And who knows, maybe he does. But obviously, Negan does not want to be in the same, conversation as the Whispers because they're on a totally different level than Negan, I think. Alright, so the second sneak peek takes place with a group. We got Michonne, Aaron, and Magnus group, and we just got some people going into the woods looking for somebody, because I believe they're looking for somebody, because Michonne says, okay, let's split up, and then she says, see any sign and we'll call it in. So that could mean a couple things. For me, I would probably guess that they're looking for somebody because there would be no reason why they would go out looking for whispers. But also they could be looking for any signs of the whispers, like maybe the whispers were around that area or something, their footprints or something like that. Maybe people back home are paranoid that the whispers are kind of creeping up on them and just watching them. So maybe Michonne goes out and tries to look for any like hints that the whispers are, not even listening to their own border, and they're kind of crossing their border and, messing with them. And in the promo images we got for season 10, they've been releasing a lot of them over the last couple weeks for these Thursday reveals. There's a lot of images of the group in the woods. So, I would probably assume that they're looking for somebody. But besides that, Aaron says something really interesting in this sneak peek. Michonne also, which we're going to cover. But after they split up, the sneak peek cuts to Michonne and Aaron in the woods. So Aaron basically asked Michonne if kind of questions like, are we the good guys? And Michonne says, why would you ask that? Because Aaron says, because we could be the villains of somebody else's story. So that's interesting. I want to see if that kind of plays, more into the season. I don't think it's going to be like a one-time question. Because if you do think about it, Aaron in a way is kind of right. They could potentially be the villains of somebody else's story, It's not like these guys are 100% innocent. I know back when it was the Saviors versus, the group, people were kind of questioning, like, what if we followed Negan from the beginning? Would we like Rick or would we like Negan? Because, remember they went to the Savior outpost and killed a bunch of people. So that question is always up there, and it's kind of interesting how they brought it up on the show now. But another interesting thing about this sneak peek is that Michonne possibly might have dropped the F word. After Aaron says that, Michonne says that she doesn't give up, and then it kind of bleeps out in the sneak peek about the whispers. Or it doesn't kind of bleep out, it just kind of mutes itself. So that's interesting. Because I do think now there's like a thing for cable TV, or I remember at least he said for The Walking Dead, they're allowed to say the F word twice. Now I remember last year, Daryl also said the F word, but they kind of edited it where we couldn't even hear it. So I don't know what the deal with that is. It's not a big deal or anything, but it's interesting, I guess. And I guess it gets fans excited because I do know in the Walking Dead comics, the comics are a lot more explicit than the TV show. They cuss a lot in the comics and stuff like that. So I guess it's interesting and fun, I guess, to hear it every once in a while on the show. But it's not like a big deal or anything. But I am definitely interested. I do like these sneak peeks. I'm kind of curious to see if Aaron's question is gonna branch out and be a problem for the communities, like some internal conflict. Maybe some of them feel guilty about their actions, so we'll see where that goes. But with that being said, let's move on and talk about the early reviews we got for the premiere. Alright, so I'm going to be going over 2 reviewers that we got for the premiere. I'm going to go over what Den of Geek said, some of the stuff they said, and then some of the stuff Forbes said. I picked these 2 because I don't think these 2 are very biased in their reviews and stuff. I know some of the other sources out there really love The Walking Dead, so they're biased and stuff like that, but I picked these 2 because in the past, I know Forbes in the past have even said a lot of negative things about The Walking Dead, so I don't really consider Forbes biased at all. But with that being said, let's get into it, starting off with Forbes. Alright, so the article title says that it's good. The person said, "I have seen The Walking Dead Season 10 premiere, and it is good." And this is what they had to say. "I have to be pretty vague here as there are a lot of things I'm not supposed to get into, but I'm happy to report that while not some jaw-dropping entry into the series, it's very good and I enjoy it. We are still in the Angela Kang era. She wrote this episode in addition to being showrunner, and the show is still benefiting as a result." Alright, so that's always awesome to hear. I like hearing good stuff about the showrunner, because, that's the person behind the show. And I'm a big fan of Angela Kang. I think she did an awesome job with season 9, excuse me. And especially since it was her first season, that makes it so much better because, just look at where she can go from here. So that's awesome for the longevity of the show. But after that, he kind of gets into, he kind of talks about the episode, like the plot stuff, so I'm not going to talk about that obviously because those are going to be spoilery. But to wrap up, he said, "Again, there's nothing that jumps out at me about this episode to make it an all-time great or anything, but it's a solid opening to what should be another good season, I hope. The writing remains on point, the direction is solid, the show is still in a good place. I'm not worried, more to come later once we get close to the premiere." So that's why I like reading Forbes. They have little nice reviews like that. That's a good, solid, spoiler-free review. And they're not biased or anything like that. He said it's not like the greatest episode of all time or anything like that. It's a solid episode that kind of shows that there's going to be some potential in the season, so that's awesome. But moving on to Den of Geek, where they talk a little bit about the how season 10 starts, which is getting a lot of hype because apparently there's going to be like a big thing that kicks off season 10. Alright, so the report from Den of Geek says The Walking Dead season 10 kicks off with the most audacious opening scene in the show's history. It's the kind of risk you don't normally see on a series going into its 10th season, but it's just what The Walking Dead needs after a couple of tired years. The era of Angela Kang, who made her debut as a showrunner of last year's much improved run of episodes, has finally arrived, and lines be crossed sans the Scott Gimple baggage that weighed down the first half of season 9. Alright, so a couple things there. The first one, I'm not sure exactly what they mean when they say Gimple weighed down the first half of season 9, because unless I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Angela Kang was the showrunner for the entire season 9. So again, I'm not exactly sure what they're meaning there unless I'm missing something. And anyways, the first half of season 9, in my opinion, was pretty damn good. But yeah, that opening scene, everybody's talking about that. A lot of the reviewers, a lot of people who work on the show, so that's exciting. And they kind of tease what it is in the next part of the review. So they say, "Much of lines we cross goes where you don't expect it to, such as with an early action sequence that feels of a different time, in a good way. If The Walking Dead has ever flirted with medieval fantasy, it is characters in this action scene that sees all the communities come together against a common threat. Gone are the guns, relics of the old world, as the heroes rely on swordsmanship and archery. It's an exhilarating battle from start to finish, and I can't wait to see how war continues to evolve on the show as it descends into simpler times. Alright, so that kind of gives me the idea that it's going to be the whole beach sequence where they're training on the beach. And yeah, I'm very excited about that, because ever since the trailer debuted in July and we saw that, all the characters in formation, that was super awesome. So I can't wait to see what that is. But yeah, it looks like, based on these reviews, this episode is going to be, a good start to hopefully a great season. I can't wait for it. This season returns in less than 2 weeks, so if you are a fan of The Walking Dead, be sure to subscribe, because we're going to be covering all the information that comes up until then. And then, once the season starts, we're going to be doing reviews and breakdowns and all that kind of stuff. I will leave the articles in the description down below if you want to go check them out. But with that being said, I am going to wrap it up there for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave a like rating, and for more Walking Dead videos, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.